The treaty was signed, the champagne flowed, and somewhere between a toast and a typo, I, Derek Monroe, a broke linguist from Des Moines, accidentally married an alien princess. 1 minute, I was asking for extra shrimp cocktail, and the next, a bored-looking alien lawyer slapped a gold wristband on me and muttered, "Congratulations, consort." I laughed, thinking it was some weird party gag. It wasn't. 2 minutes later, Earth's ambassador was apologizing profusely but assuring me that backing out would cause an interstellar incident, possibly a war, and that, frankly, Earth couldn't afford another one of those after the whole Neptune debacle. The alien princess's name was Vrella of House Zalora 7. I asked if she was hot. The ambassador gave me a pained look and passed me a pamphlet titled, "Love Beyond the Human Aesthetic, an Interplanetary Guide." It wasn't comforting. It mostly had drawings of stick figures holding hands with blobs. I asked if annulment was possible. The ambassador said yes if I didn't mind being liquefied in a ceremonial vat of ammonia. I said, "Well, when you put it like that, where do I sign?" And the rest is a bureaucratic blur. The wedding was held 3 days later on an orbital station that smelled like old soup and laser fluid. My best man was a chatbot named REX438, who kept suggesting marriage advice like, copulate efficiently, and acquire joint assets promptly. Vrella arrived under a shroud that looked like a galaxy had puked on her. Not a glimpse of skin, not a whisper of voice. Just elegant nods and strange gestures. Every time she moved, little sparkles trailed behind her like some kind of cosmic showgirl. As I waited at the altar, my palms sweating like I dipped them in fryer grease, my friends in the audience texted me constant gems like, "Bet she's got 3 heads, bro," and "Alien honeymoons, does the spaceship vibrate?" I made the mistake of peeking at my phone and saw a meme someone made of me photoshopped into a slime pit wedding. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the ring. The ceremony was a mess. The translator orb hovering between us kept glitching. When Vrella said her vows, it mangled her words into, "I promise to consume your pulsating flesh with gratitude," which sent my grandmother into cardiac distress and the audience into delighted horror. I tried to say, "I do," but the translator made it sound like, "I surrender." Fitting, honestly. We signed the last document. Another gold band clamped onto my wrist. A hologram popped up reading, "Congratulations on your union. Remain physically entwined for minimum 72 hours to complete bonding ritual." I had no idea if they meant actual physical contact or metaphorical, but based on the enthusiastic look the alien priest gave me, 3 thumbs up, I figured the night was about to get real hands-on. After the ceremony, as Vrella and I were escorted to our suite, she still didn't say a word. Just floated beside me in that glittery shroud, her scent a weirdly pleasant mix of cinnamon, burning metal, and something that made my knees feel weak in a not unpleasant way. Halfway to the suite, I leaned over and whispered, "So, do you come here often?" Her shroud rippled like she was laughing, or maybe preparing to molt. I decided to believe it was laughter. The elevator ride up was pure torture. Every second stretched into an eternity. Was she a blob of tentacles? A spiky insect? A cosmic horror beyond mortal comprehension? I'd seen enough late-night alien documentaries to know that marrying without looking was either how great adventures started, or how horror stories ended with someone shouting, "Kill it with fire!" Standing in front of the suite door, I turned to her. "Before we go in," I said, trying to sound casual and definitely failing, "just want to say, no matter what's under that shroud, I'm committed. Ride or die, babe." The shroud tilted. I took that as a good sign. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a suite filled with soft, golden light, silk sheets, and a heart-shaped bed that looked aggressively judgmental. Vrella floated inside. I hesitated a moment before following, feeling like I was stepping into a science fiction-themed porno. She stood in the middle of the room. Slowly, tantalizingly, the shroud began to peel away, layers of sparkling mist drifting to the ground. A curve of hip, a flash of shimmering blue skin, the outline of something that looked suspiciously, and gloriously, human enough to short-circuit every rational thought in my brain. When the last layer of mist dropped, I nearly collapsed. Vrella was breathtaking. Tall, lithe, radiant skin that shimmered like moonlight on water. Long hair that floated around her head like it had a mind of its own, soft and silver blue. Big, expressive eyes with pupils shaped like tiny stars. Full lips curled into a sly, mischievous smile. If this was ugly, by alien standards, their species needed urgent counseling. She looked at me, cocked her head, and said in perfect English, "So, do I pass inspection, husband?" I opened my mouth. No words came out. Just a faint wheezing noise that sounded like a broken accordion. She sauntered closer, hips swaying hypnotically. I could practically hear the blood rushing to every inappropriate place in my body. I managed to choke out. "You're beyond perfect." She laughed, a sound like champagne popping inside a cathedral. "Good," she purred, "because per treaty terms, annulments are only approved in cases of terminal incompatibility. And darling," she ran a finger, electric and feather-light, down my arm, sending a shudder straight to my core. "You and I are going to be very compatible." At that moment, as the heart-shaped bed seemed to wink at me mockingly and Vrella's hands found places that sent my sanity fleeing, I realized something profound. I might be Earth's biggest idiot, but I had no regrets. None whatsoever. I'd never seen a woman undress by unraveling strands of glowing silk from another dimension, but I could now officially say it was in my top 5 hottest things. Vrella stood before me in her full glory, and I couldn't stop staring, not just because she was radiant like a bioluminescent goddess dipped in moonlight, but because she looked so proud and vulnerable at once. "I hope my form pleases you," she said, voice smooth like melted glass. I didn't even respond. I just nodded like a malfunctioning bobblehead, because every neuron I had was either short-circuiting or chanting, "Do not screw this up." She approached slowly, hips moving with deliberate grace, and the way she looked at me, like I was the dessert buffet at an intergalactic banquet, made my knees wobble. I'd expected nervousness, awkward fumbles, maybe even full-on alien anatomy shock. What I got instead was pure, unfiltered chemistry. My heart pounded. Other parts followed suit. Then she leaned close, her breath warm and smelling like spiced starlight, and whispered, "I've studied Earth customs. Would you like to begin with foreplay?" "Yes," I said far too quickly. "All of them. Every custom. Please." She reached out and touched my chest, fingertips cool and tingling. I thought it was her body temperature, but no, her species emitted low-frequency pulses as a bonding technique. It felt like being gently electrocuted by affection. Her hands slid down, tracing the edges of my ribs. "Are these your reproductive ridges?" she asked earnestly. I blinked. No, just ribs. Useful for barbecues. Not so much sex." She gave an apologetic hum and moved lower. Her hand landed directly on something far more promising. "Ah," she said, delighted. "So this is the Earthling mating node." "That's not inaccurate," I wheezed. What followed was the most bizarrely erotic tango of misunderstanding I'd ever endured. At one point she kissed my knee thinking it was a vital stimulation zone. I nearly cried when she gently licked my earlobe and declared it squishy but underwhelming. When she finally got to the right places, her eyes widened. "It reacts to proximity? Fascinating. Are you sure this isn't for intimidation rituals? Only in locker rooms?" I muttered. She grinned and pulled me close, and I forgot how to breathe. Things escalated, spectacularly. Her skin was soft like warm velvet with a pulse, and every touch set off tiny fireworks under mine. I wasn't even sure which body part was doing what anymore. There were tendrils involved at some point, but they were gentle, exploratory, and possibly psychic. We moved together in a rhythm that felt half primal, half symphonic. She gasped at all the right moments, and I found myself whispering dumb things like, "You're incredible," and, "Holy crap, is that legal?" After round 1, we lay there tangled up, both panting. I reached for a glass of water and missed. She stared at the ceiling, eyes glittering. I was told human males were unremarkable. And now? I asked. She rolled over and gave me a slow, wicked smile. I may submit a correction to our archives. She began playing with my chest hair like it was a puzzle. So soft, she murmured. We exfoliate everything on Zalora. Our men feel like polished glass and disappointment. I laughed. You ever cuddle glass? Not comfy. She traced my jaw. Your face is asymmetrical. It's oddly endearing. That's the nicest insult I've ever received. We got to talking between bouts of wildly enthusiastic mating, mostly about cultural differences. She explained that her species thinks human noses look like decorative antennae, and that I snored like a dying warp drive. I learned she once tried dating a Fraxlian noble, but his mating call was a screaming sonar that cracked windows. And people say dating apps are tough on Earth, I muttered. At least our exes don't come with sonic weapons. Then came the moment that should have been awkward, but somehow wasn't. I asked why she really agreed to the treaty marriage. Her face darkened slightly. Duty, she said. Diplomatic alignment. Our planet feared war more than ridicule. I looked at her. And now? She hesitated. Now I'm surprised. I expected awkwardness. Pity. Instead, I found kindness. Humor. Curiosity. And an earthling mating node that performs with admirable resilience. Thanks, I said proudly. I do yoga. She kissed me again, slower this time, more deliberate. There was less urgency, more intimacy. It wasn't about the treaty anymore. It was about us, ridiculous and improbable. Somewhere along the line, I forgot she was an alien and started seeing her as my wife, my sarcastic, beautiful, glowing wife with a laugh that made my ribs ache. After round 3, which I'm proud to say involved very little confusion and only minor acrobatics, we lay there under the glowing ceiling panels, tangled up like a human Zalora pretzel. Do all humans make noises like that? She asked. Only the talented ones. I grinned. Do all Zillorans moan in 3-part harmony? Only the emotionally compromised, she replied. We talked until we passed out. About food. Her planet's version of dessert, apparently fermented star fruit in plasma glaze. About hobbies, she collected spores, I collected debt. At some point, she asked if I was happy. I blinked at her and said, You're a Galaxy-class knockout with a sense of humor, incredible anatomy, and you just rocked my universe in ways NASA can't explain. Yes. Yes, I'm happy. She smiled again. This time softer. Sincere. And when I reached for her hand, she held mine like she never wanted to let go. I woke up to a summons delivered by a tiny floating cube wearing a judge's wig. It buzzed above my head and declared in an obnoxiously formal tone that Vrela and I were in violation of Galactic Union Matrimonial Compliance Clause 42b. I blinked, still naked and confused. What did we do? I asked groggily. The cube responded. Nothing. That's the issue. No documented proof of consummation, affection metrics are statistically underwhelming, and public bonding visibility is 0. Rectify or be annulled. By breakfast, we were officially on the interstellar watch list for suspiciously cold marriage conduct. Vrela rolled her eyes so hard they glowed. My people think if you don't broadcast your sex life, it means you're faking it. Earth would be a wasteland. I muttered. The Galactic Matrimonial Review Board required us to submit daily intimacy reports with audio-visual evidence, which sounded like Sci-Fi OnlyFans until we read the form. Turns out, alien foreplay apparently included synchronized hair grooming, recited poetry, and a thing called mutual antenna stroking, which we didn't even have. Still, we had to comply. So we improvised. She combed my chest hair while I recited a haiku about her, but the translator orb glitched and turned it into a war declaration. Our intimacy score went up anyway. Turns out, passionate aggression counts. It didn't end there. We were assigned a compliance officer, a gelatinous bureaucrat named Mr. Slurp who smelled like burnt yogurt and wore suspenders. He appeared via hologram in our suite every morning and asked probing questions with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. On a scale from 1 to 12 moons, how would you rate last night's friction levels? What fluids were exchanged, and in what quantities? Did any appendages glow, swell, or spark during contact? Vrela answered these questions with noble dignity. I responded with increasingly sarcastic commentary. I'd give last night a solid 11 moons and a minor meteor shower. No sparks, but we triggered the mood lighting. Is there a box for accidental elbow in the eye? Slurp seemed satisfied. Then he assigned us a public affection challenge. We had to perform a bonding dance at the Galactic Embassy Gala in front of hundreds of diplomats. Vrela paled. That dance is sacred. It involves tongue choreography. I nearly choked. My tongue hasn't danced since high school French class. She nodded grimly. We'll practice. We did. For 3 days, we tangled tongues like drunk linguists, knocking over furniture and scaring the cleaning bots. We giggled through every mistake, every slip. We discovered my left ear made her purr. She found out I liked being called consort, in a whisper. Practice turned into play. Play turned into passion. Our love life became a performance, and surprisingly, we didn't mind. The gala arrived. We stood on a crystal platform, surrounded by beings who looked like glowing worms, feathered snakes, and sentient bean bags. Vrela held my hand. They expect perfection, she said. Let's give them a spectacle. We began the dance. It was sensual, theatrical, borderline pornographic if you understood the gestures. I spun her around, dipped her low, touched all the right pressure points. The crowd gasped when I kissed her the way humans do, openly, emotionally, without protocol. She melted into it. When it ended, the room erupted in trills, claps, and a few awkward squelching noises. We passed the test with the highest score in the sector. Our performance went viral. Overnight, we became galactic celebrities, the Human and the Zalora. Interplanetary tabloids ran headlines like, Alien Bride Licks Husband into Submission, and Earthling Consort Claims She's Hotter Than All His Exes, and He's Right. Memes exploded. My parents were mortified. My friends were jealous. The internet crowned us power couple of the cosmos. Despite the ridiculous attention, we grew closer. Fame made us busier, but not distant. We'd sneak off between interviews to kiss under starlight, or joke about how our sex life now had a ratings chart. Vrela would tease, tonight's forecast, steamy with a chance of moaning, and I'd respond with, as long as your tentacle doesn't go rogue again. We bickered over whose species made better afterglow snacks. Hers involved pickled fungus. Mine was cold pizza. We compromised with wine and laughter. Then came the threat. A group of traditionalist Zillarans filed an injunction claiming our union was invalid because Vrela was too human-leaning, and I was biologically laughable. They called me a meat-stick ape with no plasma compatibility. I wrote them a thank-you letter for the nickname. The hearing was held on a neutral moon. Their lawyers showed graphs of genetic incompatibility, lack of antenna, and offensive pelvic thrusting. I stood, looked them in the eye, and said, You think love is about matching DNA strands? We match in sarcasm, loyalty, and weird kinks. Isn't that enough? Vrela stood too. She gave a speech that made diplomats cry. He makes me laugh. He treats me like I matter, not like a bargaining chip. He knows where to kiss, when to listen, and how to cook eggs that don't explode. That's more than any noble suitor ever did. The council voted unanimously in our favor. Our marriage was not only valid, it was declared a hopeful example of unity in diversity. Vrela grinned as we walked out. You fought for me. I kissed her forehead. You're worth every awkward court appearance and invasive questionnaire. She smirked. Tonight I'll show you gratitude in 4 positions and a hover spin. I replied. Make it 5 and I'll cook breakfast. The morning after the tribunal, we woke up to a bouquet of congratulatory tentacles at the door, courtesy of the Galactic Council's Romance Department. Apparently, we were now the face of Interplanetary affection done right. Which sounded flattering until we realized it came with a monthly ambassadorial obligation: show up, look and love, and not grope each other in front of royalty. We failed at least one of those consistently. Our faces were plastered on cereal boxes, embassy walls, dating apps, and a strangely erotic calendar titled Love Beyond Species, which included a very artistic render of our mating dance mid-thrust. I asked if we were getting royalties. We weren't. Vrella threatened to sue unless they printed a new version with better lighting on my husband's mating node. That started a fan war. Team Tentacle versus Team Meatstick. I got shirts made. Somewhere between all the PR and press conferences, we started getting hate mail from purists. One group called us biological terrorism in a honeymoon suite. Another accused me of seducing her with subpar Earth snacks and emotional manipulation via forehead kisses. Vrella responded by sending them a video compilation of us cuddling, kissing, and her declaring, "I prefer his anatomy, his humor, and his pancakes." The hate fizzled. We grew stronger. Our love became a protest anthem. Couples from dozens of species sent us thank you messages. One human Glorablax pair got engaged and named their child after us, Drell. We cried. Then we laughed because Drell sounds like a brand of alien lube. Months passed. We learned each other's rhythms. I stopped burning her nutrient paste. She stopped confusing my sarcasm for passive aggression. We started arguing like pros, fast, witty, always ending in kisses or undressing. Her species considered debate a prelude to sex. I used it to win foreplay privileges. We had our first real fight over houseplants. She wanted floating moss pods. I wanted a dog. We compromised with a levitating cactus that bites. We named it Barky. It bit me. We laughed. I bled. It was a good day. Then came the invite, our appearance at the Intergalactic Love Convergence, a giant spectacle hosted on a moon-sized cruise ship orbiting two suns. We were the headliners. Vrella panicked. They expect us to be perfect. I pulled her into a hug. We're a linguist and a glowing space goddess married by accident. That's already perfect. We arrived wearing matching robes that shimmered with sarcasm. Our panel was called Love Without Borders, and also without compatible genital anatomy. The audience loved us. We answered questions like, "How do you handle language barriers during intimacy?" with, "Moaning is universal." When asked, "What's the biggest challenge?" we said, "Trying not to grope each other on diplomatic missions." After the panel, a young couple approached us. Human girl, insectoid male. She was crying. "Everyone told me this wouldn't work," she said. "Then I saw you too, and I have hope now." Vrella hugged her with all four arms and whispered something in her native dialect that made her antennae shiver with joy. I stood next to the guy and said, "Just always tell her she's beautiful, even if she's molting. And learn where her mating node is." Back in our suite, I watched her remove her ceremonial jewelry and mutter about diplomatic idiocy. I couldn't help but smile. Every day with her felt like a comedy sketch mixed with a love story that forgot to follow the rules. I walked up, slid my arms around her waist, and said, "Marrying you was the best bureaucratic accident of my life." She leaned back into me. "I knew I loved you when you defended me to a council of xenophobic reptiles while half naked and quoting Shakespeare badly." I chuckled. "You like that?" I recorded it. "It's my ringtone." She turned, kissed me, slow and deep. Her lips tasted like starlight and challenge. "Let's make this marriage even more permanent," she whispered. "You mean more permanent than public mating dances and shared bank accounts?" "I mean, let's try for a hybrid." I blinked. "Like a baby? Or a very advanced houseplant?" "But yes, a child." We didn't know if it would work. Cross-species reproduction was rare, messy, and involved science we hadn't even invented. But we were willing to try, laughing, fumbling, moaning our way through the experimental biology of love. Weeks turned into months. Experiments happened. Pheromones flew. At-home conception kits were tested, rejected, and sometimes exploded. We saw 5 alien doctors, 2 Earth ones, and 1 sentient fungus who gave great cuddles but 0 useful advice. In the end, nature did what it does best, surprised us. She woke me one morning with a kiss and a test stick that glowed green. "We did it," she said, eyes wide and voice trembling. I stared at the stick, then at her, then blurted, "Do we need a bigger cactus?" She burst out laughing. "You're going to be a terrible, amazing father." I kissed her belly, still flat and glowing faintly. "We're going to raise the weirdest, most loved child in the galaxy." She nodded. "And teach them how to insult bigots in 5 languages. And dance badly at weddings. And love like lunatics. And fight over houseplants. And never read the fine print." We leaned into each other, glowing with something far brighter than alien light or fame. Against every odd, through every ridiculous obstacle, we had built something real, chaotic, passionate, and unbreakably ours. She smiled and whispered, "Still no regrets?" I laughed. "None. Except maybe naming the cactus Barky."